What's up? It's Derek. So it's been a while, and yeah, so I decided I wanted to start making some more videos. Recently had some changes in the old personal life, and I started getting some more free time back, and I wanted to start pursuing some hobbies again. And I've been still collecting games in my time away from YouTube, and so I've amassed quite a few games. Like I'm sure you can see in the background there that we got stuff on the shelf again, a lot of Switch games that I eventually want to talk about at some point. But today's video is going to focus on some PS2 pickups that I've gotten. And since I've had these for a while, I don't want to necessarily just focus on pickups, but I just kind of want to talk about the games and then kind of decide whether or not they were a hit or a miss. Like whether it is a good game that I ended up picking up or if it was just kind of like a trash game. So to start this off with, it's going to be this game called Aero Elite Combat Academy. This is a Sega published game, an AM2 developed game. Like AM2 used to develop a lot of arcade games for Sega back in the day. And so I was kind of hoping this would kind of have the famous AM2 like polygon art style to it, which it doesn't really. It kind of looks like Ace Combat. But this is a very good game. And I will just give you a spoiler and say this is definitely a hit. And I like this game for a couple of reasons, and the biggest reason is that it has this mode called Free Flight, and in Free Flight, it's kind of like playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can just get in a plane, fly around an area that you're in, and have a lot of fun. So I was flying around this island in an F-14, just doing some pattern work, just taking off and landing, and I had a ton of fun. I ended up playing this game a lot more than I thought I would. But going back to the actual reason that someone would want to play like a flight combat sim game is the flight combat. And the flight combat in this game is actually really good. It reminds me kind of like Ace Combat, and the planes felt really nice and responsive. The controls didn't seem like they were overly twitchy or the plane didn't respond well to your controls. Everything felt great, and then the UI was really nice to look at. It felt like it gives you the information that you're looking for, and it does it really easily. And overall, like I said, I'm going to say this one was a hit. I like this game a lot, and I've got some other like combat sims that I want to talk about that we'll see if they're hits or not. So hey, look at that. The next one up is going to be a game called Lethal Skies. So I ended up getting this one after I decided to get Aero Elite because I was just in the mood for flight combat sims. And so I thought that this one, it looks largely the same as like Ace Combat or Aero Elite. I figured this would be pretty much in the same vein. But this game has some issues. So here you see pure speed, pure combat, pure action. They left off one, and I'm going to say pure garbage. This game, not a great game. This one's definitely a miss. And this is a miss because the controls are very bad and the UI is kind of unintelligible. Like there's so much stuff happening in the UI, but none of it's really useful. And so I could never really figure out what weapon I had selected, what altitude I was at, what airspeed I was flying at, what my target was, what my objective was, like what was even going on. And then, like I said, the controls themselves were very, very twitchy. Felt like small movements caused the plane to just bounce all over the place, and it just wasn't that fun. I guess other than that, this game is kind of unremarkable. So yeah, definitely a miss on this one, which was kind of unfortunate because like F-14 is probably my favorite fighter aircraft, and just the fact that they advertised this with the F-14 was kind of a letdown. And so we rolled into the next game, which is going to be Lethal Skies 2. I'm going to say this game is more of the same, which I found unfortunate. I was really hoping that they would fix some of the issues with the first game, but I'm going to guess that they never really had like a sit down with people to see whether or not anyone had gripes with the game, because the UI was basically the same. The same controls were at play. It felt like anytime you moved the stick, the plane just jumped all over the place and it was too responsive. The UI, like I said, unintelligible. I couldn't really tell what was going on. What I will give this game props for, though, is that the opening cinematic for this game was in an art style that kind of looked something like a 3D watercolor painting. And I thought that that was such a good art style. And I don't know why they didn't just use that art style in the game itself, because I feel like that would have set it apart. And maybe it could have been the thing that made people a little more forgiving with the god awful controls and the kind of crappy UI. But they didn't. But I will say, it's a cool game if you can find, like, this game is like $5 or something like that. Cool to mess around with, I guess. It also has a free flight mode, and the free flight mode is better than the game itself. Like I said, you can just get in a like high performance fighter aircraft and just fly around doing whatever you want, and it's pretty fun. But if you're in it for the flight combat, it's not good. Very not good. Very much a miss. Okay, so the next game up is going to be this game called Barbarian. Barbarian reminds me of, say, like a mix between Killer Instinct 2 and Power Stone. And I guess I say like a mix between Killer Instinct 2 because like Killer Instinct 2 it had like a weird art direction where like everything was kind of barbarian-esque. And like you have a lot of characters that are wearing like wool clothes and not a lot of clothes, and then carrying shields and large axes and stuff. And then it's kind of like Power Stone because you're put into these 3D environments, these 3D arenas, and you're fighting enemies and stuff in the environment you can pick up and use as weapons. Some of the levels have like PvE enemies on there, just like enemies that belong in the arena that you fight, as well as the opponent that you're trying to fight. And I found that the combat is pretty simple in this game. There's basically only 2 buttons that you can use, square and triangle, and then you do different combinations of square and triangle to pull off different combos. Like, it's not, if you're a button masher, this is pretty much heaven for you. And I honestly found this game to be a lot more fun than I was expecting. And I'm gonna say, dare I say, that this is actually a hit. And I've come back and played this game a couple more times. Like, I actually had a lot of fun playing this game, and I think if you have people that you can play this game with, it's gonna be like playing Power Stone was back in the day. It's not as fun as Power Stone, but it is fun to just beat around some of your friends in like a co-op environment. And like I said, the PvE plus the PvP aspect, and then you have environments that are interactive, really cool. And for a game that's basically going to be like a shovelware fighting game, pretty cool. Okay, next game up, a game called Shifters. I'm not gonna lie, I largely bought this game because it was cheap, and then I really like the box art. Like, the box art is just like such B tier quality awesomeness. And I found this one to be okay. Let me just start with, this game definitely has jank. It is not a game for everybody. This is probably the only game that I've ever played where you use L1 on the controller to interact with things, and it took me a while to figure that out because the game surely didn't tell you that. And this game has a ton of load scenes. I feel like this is an early PlayStation 2 game. I haven't looked it up, but I'm gonna guess this is probably an early PlayStation 2 game, just given the fact that a lot of times if you're just going, say you're inside of a house and you leave the house, like, you're gonna have a cutscene, and I'm gonna guess that the game wasn't really optimized because the PlayStation 2 had just come out and the devs were just trying to release a game. But anyway, so onto the gameplay of this. Imagine if Elder Scrolls Morrowind was like a very linear action game, and then you mixed in some aspects of Altered Beast from like the Sega Genesis or the arcade. That's pretty much what you're gonna get in this game. So like I said, it's janky, but the combat actually kind of fun. Fighting enemies, kind of fun. You pick up new weapons. There's RPG aspects to it where you can level up your character. You get different items that you can use. There's a ton of secrets and secret items and stuff to find. And then I forgot what the gems are called, but you pick up these gems and you use the gems to change the like basically morph into the different characters. I have this on manual focus. But like here you can kind of see like there's different enemies and like different beast people that you can turn into. And then when you turn into different beast people, you have different fighting styles and stuff like that. So like I said, this game not a game for everybody, but I happen to like kind of janky games, like janky fantasy action adventure RPG style games. That's kind of where I got my start in video games, so I have a soft spot for games like this. And I found this, for me personally, to be a hit. I actually kind of liked playing this game. And like with the whole hit or miss thing that I'm doing here, the hits, I'm actually like separating away from the misses. And at some point, I'm going to go back and complete the games that I think are hits. And that this is just a way for me to kind of use the games that I have in my collection currently to just like make videos with and talk about them, but to also get some like controller time with the games that I have to see whether or not I actually really do like them or not. And then the games that I do like the hits, I will keep, since I will like put them in a separate pile from the other games. And then the misses, I'll be a little more inclined to get rid of in one way or another. Okay, the next game up is going to be Devil Kings. This is a Capcom published game. This is like standard fare Muso game. I don't know if there's a space that exists between hit or miss, but I would put this there if it does, because it's not a miss and it's not really a hit. And it's, if this was like 15 years ago, I would definitely say this game is a hit. But the problem is that Muso games, there's a ton of them, but in recent years, Muso games have just become way better with like Hyrule Warriors and Dragon Quest Warriors and Fist of the North Star. Like the formula is just more engaging in modern Muso games than it is in this game. But this isn't really a bad game. Like this game has really nice graphics. The combat's really cool. The stages are just kind of barren, I'll say, in some places, and it feels like you do a lot. It takes a lot of effort to clear a stage, and it feels like it's way more effort than it should be. And if there was, say there, the stages weren't as large as they are, and there weren't as many like waypoints that you had to clear, I feel like that would make this a better game. But given that the game is the way that it is, and there's better Muso games out there, like I said, this kind of exists in the space between hit or miss. Like if I run out of hits to play, then I'll probably pick this game up and give it a chance. I will say that this game has really cool cinematics. The actual CG cinematics are cool themselves, but it also mixes in like anime slash animated cutscenes, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess nothing really special, nothing really awful about this game. It just kind of exists. Okay. The next game up, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I don't like the movie. I will admit that now. I'm not a fan, not a fan. But there's something about the Star Wars Episode 3 video games. So there's this game and then the DS game. Something about them, for whatever reason, they ended up being like very good licensed games. So that'll kind of like spoil this as being a hit. Like I think this is a hit. It sort of plays like an action game, like I don't want to say like an arcade beat 'em up, but it kind of feels like an arcade beat 'em up if I'm being honest. And it's got RPG-esque mechanics, like as you're clearing, so you, each level has different stages, and then you just kind of move from one side of the screen to the other in maybe like 2 3 minute increments, and then that counts as kind of like a stage, and then you clear a stage, and at the end of the stage you'll accrue experience points, and then you can use the experience points to give yourself better Jedi skills or to improve the skills that you currently have, and then you just move on to the next stage, and then you kind of just keep doing that. And I find that aspect of the game to be like really cool, really interesting. And like I said, the it mixes in like scenes from the movie, which I think is interesting, like actual scenes from the movie, and then it'll like recreate some other scenes in CG, and I think it works really well. But I think like the shining part of this game is honestly the combat. Like it's way better than it should be, and it's actually pretty fun. So I'm gonna say this is a hit for me, and I will be coming back to this game in the not so far off future because I actually really enjoyed my time with it. Okay, the next game up is going to be a fighting game. It's Guilty Gear Isuka. It's a Sammy Studios developed game. I was kind of nervous because this was like Lethal Skies is also a Sammy Studios game, so I was kind of worrying about what I was getting into after playing Lethal Skies. But this is actually a really good game. So Guilty Gear in and of itself is a good fighting game series. If you've never played Guilty Gear, think of like the SNK arcade game art style, like how awesome SNK arcade game sprite work was, and then multiply that like by a million, and then you'll have how awesome looking Guilty Gear games look. The Guilty Gear games are beautiful games, and the combat in Guilty Gear games is accessible. It's still like command input, kind of like Street Fighter style game, but like it's not as overly complex to me as like a Street Fighter, and it's kind of like it's kind of like in the same space as Tekken, I would say, as far as like the kind of inputs required to play the game. And it's like there's a ton of different characters that you can choose to play the game with, and I find it to be really cool. But what I especially wanted this version of this game for is there's this mode called GG Boost, which is a Guilty Gear Boost, which is a side-scrolling arcade-style beat-em-up mode for this game. And I thought that mode with Guilty Gear characters would be amazing, and I was not let down. It's actually really fun. So imagine a arcade beat-em-up where you get to do like fighting game inputs and like do these insane like special moves. But I will say the one drawback of that whole thing is that there's this mechanic in this game where you have to manually turn. And so in the arcade beat 'em up mode, GG Boost mode, when enemies jump over you, you have to manually turn your character around in order to attack them. And in the heat of the moment, that is very difficult to do. Like I routinely found myself just like attacking in the wrong direction, and I found it to be kind of frustrating. But I still think that the core game itself is awesome. The GG Boost mode is awesome. I don't think they ever brought GG Boost mode back in any of the other Guilty Gear games. So I think this is the only version of the game that has it. And if you can get over the manual turning, I think this game is worth it. So yeah, I'm going to say this one's definitely a hit. I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. And I love playing fighting games, and I'm trying to get better at fighting games. And I will find myself coming back to play this some more. Alright, so the last game is one that has catapulted its way to probably being my favorite PlayStation 2 game of all time. And that game is going to be Genji Dawn of the Samurai. Like, this game has no business being as good as it is. So Genji Dawn of the Samurai, this game relies fairly heavily on, I guess it's going to be like Japanese folklore, and yeah, it's just like the storytelling in this game is ridiculous. This game has like a very cinematic camera movement to it as well, and that camera movement sets up like a lot of really cool scenes and a lot of like epic feeling moments in the game, and I thought that was awesome. And the combat in this game is ridiculously fun and engaging, and there's this mechanic called Kamoi, which allows you to kind of slow down time, and then if you're being attacked by multiple enemies, you end up going into like this QTE, like quick time event mode, where you get to do kind of like what you see in old like martial arts movies where everything's moving in slow-mo, and like the hero does like these really cool like moves to take out the enemies, and so you end up feeling even more awesome during the Kamoi stuff. Plus it can do a ton of damage. But the combat was fun. I found a lot of the stages to be really cool to explore. The music in this game is phenomenal, and there's a lot of areas where you can just go and like you can talk to NPCs and stuff and just kind of explore and take in the world. And I wasn't expecting that. I figured this was just going to be a straight action game, but it definitely involved more. So yeah, Genji, absolute hit. And I actually played Genji on my Twitch stream, and I have uploaded a complete playthrough of that game. So if you're interested in taking a look, please give it a look-see. And for a lot of these other games that I've talked about, I'm going to also upload extended gameplay of those as well. So if you're interested in seeing what those games look like, feel free to check those videos out. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you had a great week. I hope 2021 is treating you well. I hope you're out there staying safe, trying not to get that Rona. And yeah, I'll try. I'm going to not try. I'm going to be more active on the YouTube channel and try to bring some life back into it. And so I'm going to be mixing some content from Twitch as I like complete games and stuff. I'll upload VODs to YouTube, but I also want to get back into talking about game collecting. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to talk about like rarity or price of video games. I just want to talk about games and games that I find awesome, games that I might not necessarily find awesome, but I'll try to find some good in them. But I just want to get back to like talking about games and game collecting for the sake of having fun with games and game collecting. And I don't know, see if I can find some like-minded folks out there. But anyways, thanks for watching the video and have a good one. Peace.